Femi, are you sure? So we are going to be building a full stack application using Golang. So we are going to be using Go on the back end. The major focus, we are heavily focusing on Go, learning Go very well. And we'll come to use React on the front end. Alright, so the project is already built and I'm going to start it up here. Have the project here. So it's a very basic tax application, and what we are doing in this tax application is to we can type whatever we want to do. Let's say mobile development, or let's say mobile development screen, right? Whatever you want to do. Okay, so maybe going to the market, and then you can toggle it. Means you've completed it, you've gone there, you've accomplished. Is a list of things to do, and then you can untoggle them, and then you can also toggle like this, and then you can delete as well. So there's going to be a modal pop up to ask you if you are sure you want to delete the tags. So it's a basic CRUD application, right? And focusing to helping us to really understand Golang perfectly. And then once we are done with the back end, then we can now move to the front end where we are going to use React. And I've decided to really use a very simple UI because the back end is the focus here, and that is why I'm using this UI. So let's get started. So if you want to code along with me, you can. So the project is already on GitHub, and it's well documented, and the folder structure, we are going to be using the chill library. So you can follow along. I'll drop the link in the description below. Alright, so let's get started. And so I'll also be discussing about the folder structure and the handling later on in the video. Alright, so we are going to start by creating an empty folder here. Just going to call it, let's say, tax app, like this. I'm going to do, okay, so let me close this. Let me close this guy here. Right, this is the project we've worked on. So we're going to have a new window here. So what I'm going to do is to let me drag the new folder that has been created. Let's bring it in here like this. Yeah, so this is what we have. So we're going to open the terminal. So what I'm going to do first is to create main.go file, right? So the main.go file is the entry point, of our application, the root, the entry point to our application. Whatever code we are writing, it starts executing from the main.go file. So it's important, right, to have that in your code. Alright, so what we are going to do is to begin to set up main, package just main, and then we are going to write a function, call it main, like this, and we are good. Alright, so maybe you want to run some basic check, we can do fmt.print in like this. Alright, you can say hello world. Alright, so and then I can come here ls to be sure that we're in the same in the directory, and then we can do go run main.go. Alright, so we have hello world. So we have a basic setup. Now since we are building an application, there's a need for us to, we're going to have several folders, right? And then we're also going to have several files. So the folder convention I did here is to use this. It's already on GitHub here, right? I'm going to be structuring the project like this. And the reason why I'm structuring the project like this is we are going to have the CMD folder, and then we are going to have the main, the handlers, the API. So I'm going to explain each of these files to us one after the other. We are going to have the internal file, and then we are going to have the web. The web is basically for the React. Alright, so the essence of this is for proper organization, and then like I said, we are going to use the dependency injection. The dependency injection is that we have everything separated, and we are not going to have our code tightly coupled together. So they are going to be loosely coupled, right? In case you want to use you want to change some functionality, or you want to use another package. All right, so when we get to the database area, I'm going to be explaining more on that, but this is the convention that we are going to follow in this particular project. So we are going to be creating all this folder right now, and so let's get to create this folder in our project. But before I create this folder, we are going to do something now. So we are going to initialize this project, right? So we are going to do let's use go mod init, right? So the convention is you use the GitHub link that you want the project to be. The GitHub link, for that project when you want to initialize this project. So I'm just going to do github.com/tax like this, right? Like I said, so you can see that we have the go.mod file created for us here, right? So like I said, if you are just building maybe a small project, there might not be need for go.mod, but since we are building an application, there's going to be we are going to have different folders and files that will be interacting with each other. So it's important that we do this, right? So very important. And then there are external packages that we are going to be using. All right, so this helps to keep what is it called now? To help us in terms of the organization, and then you keep track of whatever packages that we are using in our projects. All right, so let's just get going with our project. So very important, we have this. As you can see, what we have here, this is just simple. The Go version is what we have here for now. So what we are going to do now is let's begin to create the different folders that we need. So I'm going to do CMD. Like I said, I'm going to move this to the CMD right now, and then I'm going to create other ones like the internal folder. So the internal folder, we are going to have so many things inside the internal folder, right? So we are going to have the DB. Let's do this like this. We're going to have the DB like this, and then we're also going to have another folder, the models. This is not properly done. Moving it like this, okay, and then we are going to have repository as well. So these are the three folders that we're going to have. Inside here, we are going to have the db.go. All right, so I'm going to set up the database now, right? And so we are going to have the package db, right? Since you have a folder, so it has to be the name. All right, so what we are going to do is to start with our database. And why I was thinking and planning about this project, I wanted to do something so basic that anybody can really follow along without having to install any big things like Docker. So I wanted to just do something so basic. So we are going to be using the SQLite, database. So very simple database. It's a file-based database. So very simple database to to store our data. So that's what we are going to be using in this project. So I'm going to do, let's do something. So I'm going to write font new. So what we are going to do is we are going to have the basic thing is this, right? So everything here is going to be initialized in our main, right? So like I said, the entry points of our application is the main.go, right? So whatever setup I'm doing here, I'm going to be calling it inside the main here, right? So that is very, very important, right? And there's something that I've not mentioned that we're also going to be learning very well in this project is going to be the concept of interface. So when we get to that point, I'm going to explain that, okay? So but what I'm just doing here is to do basic setup, right? So I'm writing a function here that the function will be called inside my main, right? So that's what I'm doing here. So let's just set up the database for now. So we're going to take some parameters, max, open the connections, cons, then you have max, I do cons as well. Right, so when you Go is a statically typed language. It means that you have to, when you declare a variable, you also have to specify the type, not like a dynamically typed language or interpreted language. This is a statically typed language, compiled language. So it is important that when we call this function is going to accept parameters, right? Things that have to be passed inside that function, and it's important that we declare the type of that parameter. So that's why you have int and all of that. So this is what is expected. I'm going to do max idle time. This is going to be a string, and then we can continue with our functionality. So, and one thing about Go, especially the function, is we also specify what is expected, like the results of our function, right? So every function is meant to return something. So in our case in Golang, we also have to specify what is expected. Alright, so since this function is going to be returning two values, so we are going to specify them here. So we're going to specify, we have a star here. I'm going to explain that later. It's a pointer in go.db, and then we are going to have error as well. Okay, so the function is going to return this and this. Alright, so let's move on. I'm going to do db. Okay, so one of the ways we declare variables in Golang is to use these signs, right? And then we have other ways of declaring a variable, like something like this. So we can also declare a variable like this. But once we are inside a function, right, a short way of declaring variables to declare it like this. Alright, so that's very kind of fast and simple. So we're going to have SQLite.open. So this is a method. Alright, so we are going to do something. We're going to import this guy. Alright, so this is the package, right? Whenever you have to use database, you need this package in your project, in your DB, right? Whenever you have to do it. So together with the driver, this is very, very important, right? So, and then this method, we are calling this method from this package, right? So if I open this, we can see that it's from the package, from the Go package that we have in our project. I have not installed this package. I'm going to do that very shortly, right? So we can see that the method is inside. So you can see the method takes the driver's name and the data source, which we are going to also be putting that right now. So what we are going to use is SQLite 3. Okay, initially I wanted to use Postgres, but changed my mind because of the various setups that I need to do. Alright, so let's see if I can get this. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to do, I have to take this because I need to import. Let's bring in this guy here like this. We're going to have github.com/ so this is the driver for the SQLite that we are using, and it's important whatever database you are using, you need to have these as well. So the reason why we're having this red line is because I need to do go more. I'm going to install it now. So one way we can do this in, we can, let's say, so if I go online, like let's do something right, I can come here and do SQLite. Oh, let's do SQLite. Okay, bingo. So this is what we have. We can see that it's SQLite 3, right? So one of the things we can do is we can do go get, right? So we can do go get, and then we can really install it, right? So if I copy this like this, I can come here to my app and then put it this way. So the red line will go. Definitely the red line has gone. Alright, so we can continue with what we are doing here. So the next thing is to handle the error. Error handling is also very important, that we see that the results of our function, right? Our function, we are going to get this, right? And then we are going to have error, right? So in case this fails, right? So we're going to handle the error. So we're going to do it's not equals to new. So we're going to have return new and error. So how are we having this line? Alright, so let's keep moving. So the next is if max records is greater than 0. We're going to do some settings here as well. These are parameters for a database. Set maximum open connection to be max open cons like this. Right, so all this functionality works with our database. Alright, so setting the maximum connection db dot set maximum id connection cons max id cons. So I'm going to do all this connection. Yeah, we're going to set it up in the main. So let's just keep going. So we are going to have this relation error. This we're going to have time dot first relation max idle time. Alright, so I think we are good to go. Then let's handle the error. Then have on new and error. So okay, missing something. I said it's missing something. So what else are we going to do? I'm going to be explaining everything I'm doing. So max cons ID time, the relation that we set here, right? So and let's go from here, and then we have so we are going to pin, right? So what we have done here is to write a function, right? This is setting it up. Okay, so this is specifying the driver name, right? And then like we saw when I opened it here, the driver name, the data source, that is what we have done, right? And then we are setting up the maximum time that the database will be open, the max idle connection, the max idle time. So that's just, these are parameters that we are setting, right? So if you go to this SQL, I want to do something. Let's come here. Let's go to the, just wanted to check something. Oh, I know that is a we have, okay, so let's continue. So this is a method. So the what I want to call here, the db.ping is that this is what established the connection, right? So that's a method that established the connection. So let's do ping like this. So let's check for error. Like name, then returns error like this, and then so I'm just going to return db, right, and new, right? So if we don't have any error, then this is what we are going to have, right? So we are done with the database, and then I'm going to go to the main shortly. But okay, so this functionality here is to set it up, right? Okay, establish the connection. Then this is what the ping, this is actually what connects the method that connects, establish the connection, right? So this is very important, right? And you know, we are not using Postgres. Assuming we are using Postgres, it's also possible to use ping context, right? So that is that. So we can see that we are returning db, right? So the db that, and then we're also returning the error, which is none for now, right? So that is that. So what I want to do now is that we want to create a table. Func create table like this. We're going to have a db. So it's going to be, when you have a star like this, this is a pointer. db is going to take a db, and then let's create a table. Create table. Create. Yes, we're going to create tags table because we're going to be interacting with the data. So we're going to do something like this. So this is a variable, right? Then we have this. So we're going to do, let's create table if not exists. So the name of our table is task list. Task list like this. Task list. So we're going to have an ID integer. Primary key. Auto increments. So the next one, you're going to have a title. Okay, so this is going to create a table for us. We are going to have a test, not none. We're going to have completed. Completed integer default 0. So we're going to have created at date time. So just copy this default. Current timestamp like this. Alright, so I'm just going to duplicate this guy like this. Okay, so let's copy. So this is going to be updated at Alright, so we have created the table, and so we are going to have, then we don't need this. So we use this sign when we don't need that variable, right? So that's when we use this underscore, right? When we don't need a variable, right? We're going to do db dot x like this, and then we are going to call the table. Alright, so now the question is, so look at what we are doing here. You can see that we are creating table. Now that we have set up our database, right? This is a method for our database. Now we now have a table, right? Because our database definitely needs a table, right? So what I've written here is to specify to create a table, right? And then we need it to be created, and for it to be created, then we are calling this, right? So this is coming from where? So this is coming from, this is coming from here, right? So you can see we have db. So if I click on this now, it takes us to the package. Like I said, it takes us to the function. So we are calling the method from here. I can see the method we are calling from the SQL.go. So like I said, when you're working, this package is very important. Okay, it contains the method that you're going to be calling, that has to do with anything that has to do with database, right? So the database.sql is very important when you have to do with anything that has to do with SQL, right? It has the methods that you are going to use for inserting, for querying your database. Everything is there. So since what we want to do is to insert this table, then we are calling this method x. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is to check for error. So we are using dash because I don't need the results that comes from here, right? That's why we are using the underscore. So we are going to do if error not new, like this. So we're going to do log.filter, then like this. Alright, so I think that's all for now. Right, so what do I want to do? What I want to do is to make sure that the DB, yes, exactly. So I was going to explain that the DB is a struct. So I want you to see struct. If you're coming from JavaScript, struct is an object, right? So it's a blueprint, like object that has key value pairs, right? So you have a key, you have a value, right? What we are talking about, key values. That is what that's what structs are in Golang, right? So this we see that is a struct, and then the struct that we have can actually have methods, right? So methods are actually functions that are called on that, let's say, object. So in our own case now, our object is the struct. So we can define things inside our struct, and then we can have methods that that takes in that object. We have functions that takes in, that are specific to that struct, to that object that we have created. I hope we got it. So we see that, so we are seeing DBA now as a struct. Okay, I love Go. Go is fantastic because the libraries, the internal libraries, right, is very, very, I mean, it's very nice, and it's so, it is great. All right, so we have a struct here, right? You can see that this method like sql.open, if you come to this, so okay, let's use this. Let's check this now. This, you see that it's taking, so this method you are seeing here is a receiver method. We call them receiver method because they are acting on this, on the what, on the struct. So you see that the struct is taking db, right? This is a pointer here, right? So these are methods, these are things, terminologies that will go in depth later on in the channel, right? But what I'm just saying is that you can see that we have this, shows that is a receiver function, and then we now have set of this taking argument, then this is the result. All right, so what I'm just trying to explain here is that what we are passing it here, what we are passing inside this table is actually a struct, right? So if you check the struct, you will see that everything I was saying, the max idle, where is it? I think I have it. Okay. Total number of connection, I think, yeah. Okay, we have the max idle time. Okay, so I was trying to check for some other functionality. All right, so that is that, and then so what I'm going to do now is to kind of call this method, right? So we are going to call it inside the new, so that when we call this method, then this, when we connect to our database, right, as the database is connected, the connection pool is, the ping establish the connection pool. This also is also, the table is also created as well, right? The table is also created by calling this function. So we are going to do create table. All we need to do is to, we have the db here already, so we have the db, right? Because when you call sql.open, it returns, can you see what is returning now? sql.db. Can you see now? So this is going to return, this is giving us sql.db, which is what we are passing down here, right? So that is what we are passing down here. So we can as well just take this db, which is what, sql.db. You can see sql.db, and then just pass it down here like this, and that is all. So when we call this method, then we expect that there's a connection that is established in the database, and at the same time our table is also created. All right, so that is that for the database. We are going to be testing that later. So what we're going to do is, let's create a model. Once I'm done here, we'll go to the main and do the things that we need to do inside our main. All right, so we need package, using the package with model. So we're going to do, so we're going to define a struct. We're going to use a struct here. Type tags struct like this. So what we are going to do is we are going to have an ID of 8. Alright, so in Golang we do this, and then I'm making, so what we have here, we are having the feed, right? So we have a struct, and then we have the feed, and then you also have to specify the variable type, right? The data types. So we have, this is going to be string, then you have completed, it's going to be bool, then we have created at. So I'm making it is a capital letter in order to use capital letter Y, so that it's like it can be I can export it. So time, right? So the same thing, just copy, right? So this is going to be what's updated at. All right, so I'm going to be adding what we called tags or struct tags, right? So we are going to see this representation later, right? So that when we are actually, making these calls, this will be the representation, right? Instead of being capital letter, it's going to be this. So we are going to see it so that we understand what I'm saying better. So we're going to have title. So the API is going to come in that form. Title, and we are going to have JSON, going to have completed. Alright, so JSON is going to be created at JSON is going to be updated at. So we are done with this folder. So we are going to, what are we going to do? Write this line not compatible with this. Let's see where I'm having this line. Oh yeah, I've done something wrong. Alright, so alright, okay, so we are good with this. So the next thing I want to do is let's come to our main. Right, so we're going to be doing some stuff inside our main for now. Okay, so for our main, so for here, from the diagram I showed us here, you see we have the main.go, we have the handler.go, we have the API.go. Right, so the API is where we are going to do the routing, right? There's a library we are going to use called router. It's a fantastic library, sorry. And this is what we are going to use that handles our routing to handle multiple routes. So it's a lightweight, idiomatic, composable router for building HTTP service, right? So let's set up our let's set this up really quick. So what I'm going to have here, we have the API.go, then we are going to have the handler.go as well. So so let's go to for the API.go, we're going to have a few things there. API.go, let's do package main. So the question is, why am I using packages main? It's because they are, instead of having all the code in my main, right, I'm trying to split them. That is just what I'm trying to do, right? So instead of having to write everything inside the main, right, instead of having everything inside the main, I'm going to do that later. Trying to split, I'm trying to split the content. So that's why they have the same package.main, right? So they are in the same folder, right? So when you have something in the same folder, then the package is still the same thing, right? So what I'm going to do here is we have package.main. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to have a struct. We're going to call it application struct like this. This is what we have, and then we are going to have configuration, right? So why do we need the configuration? I'm going to be explaining shortly, right? So we have our configuration. So I'm going to use type. I'm going to use configuration struct here as well. So the configuration we are seeing here is the DB that we've created here, right? So everything that we have here, we want to be setting it from here. I'm going to explain shortly. We have max, take it this. Alright. So we have int, I should have even int like this. Right, so type config struct. So yes. Okay. So So what we want to do basically is that we are going to control everything from the main, right? That's why I said dependency injection, right? So we are going to be passing everything from the main. Okay, so that is just what I want to do. So we have a struct that's going to hold everything, right? So let me just continue. So we are going to have from, we have app dot, so we are going to have application. I'm going to running the app. Let's make some progress. Now, what's the meaning of this? So the meaning of this is a struct. So I said that you see struct, like struct is an object. Okay, so you have heard about objects, right? Objects, I'm talking about object as key values, right? We have a key, we have a value. So let's say 1 maps to orange, 2 maps to mango, something like that, right? So we are now going to have methods. So methods are statements, right, that to execute something. Okay, so maybe let's say for instance you want to add two numbers together. So let's say any two numbers, maybe give me two numbers. So instead of saying 2 plus 2, 10 plus 4, any numbers, just random numbers, 100 plus 200, 500 plus 1000, then you can write a method that takes in two methods, that takes in two arguments. The arguments you are passing are going to be the numbers, right? And then it can just give you whatever result that you want. All right, so the same thing. So they are methods. So that's a method, that's a function, right? So we are writing a function that takes in this struct. Right? As you can see, it's taking this struct. So we are using app to represent this. So the reason why we're having asterisk in front is because it's a pointer. What we mean by a pointer is that whatever we do inside this method should be able to affect the data, like it can modify the data. That is why we are using asterisk in front of the application. So whatever we do with this application here, we should be able to modify the data. This is the data that we have here, right? So don't forget that what I'm trying to do is that I have two structs. So I have a struct, application struct, and I have the config struct. And then I'm putting this, so the type, so I have the name here, which is config, then I'm setting this particular struct here. So it's like I have a nested struct in a way, right? So it's for a purpose, all right? So that is that. So we have the application, and then, passing it like this, and then we have the mounts, is the name of the method, of the struct, and then we are going to return HTTP. So I'm going to set up the server very soon now, handler, right? So what we are going to do is let's import HTTP server, HTTP net.http. So this is what we have here. All right, so what's the next you want to do is we are using the chi library. So we're going to do chi dot new router. This new router is a constructor. All right, so in order to use the library, we have to import it. This is now chi, okay, /b5. Okay, so let's put 5 here. All right, so there's this. All right, so we can do, so using the libraries here, I think we can come here. Oh, okay, let's just, so if you have a lot of libraries that you've installed, right, you can do go mod tidy. So it's going to find it for you and automatically install it for you. So you can see that the red line has gone. So we can move on. So we can do r dot. So let's set up this course handler. Gonna do course dot option. That should have just set up a simple HTTP server for now. So we're going to install this as well. So let me just, so we're going to have course like this. Alright, so what are we going to have? Options. Okay, so what we want to do is to set up the course. Let's see, we have the course, right? We have so the key has different libraries, packages with it. That's the middlewares, the course, very fantastic library. Can't seem to find it. Alright, so let me just type it out. We have allowed origin, string, so we're going to HTTP. HTTP is so star that this, then we have HTTP star like this as well. So going to have this, so actually, so the next one is the methods. Method as well. So we're going to have different HTTP methods. We're going to have get, right? We're going to have posts. We're going to have delete. We're going to have the options as well. Alright, so the next one is the headers. Headers, we are going to have assets. So we have assets authorization. If I don't do this now, we still need to do it. So, authorization, content type, we have X, let's say I have a token. Alright, so what we need to do next is expected headers. Expected headers. I don't want to copy this, I just want to type them out. Right, so we have link, and then we have allow credentials. We have first, then we have max age. It's going to be 300. Alright guys, let me see if I can format this. Alright. Okay, so we are handling the course here. Right, so the next thing we want to do is I'm going to set up a simple router. Route like this. We have else, just to check the else of this, and so Now, what we are doing here, okay, so I'm just going to finish it, and then I'm going to do some explanation. Once I've done dot router, right, so we're going to have this. So we have how dot get, it's going to be a get request, right, and then we have so app dot. So what I want to do is I can write a function here, but that's why I have an handler here. So let's do package main. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm going to return this how, right? So we are setting our router. We are still coming back to this place. But let's set up one handler here. So we're going to do func app. It's going to be app asterisk application. Okay, so you can see that we have the struct defined here, right? So we have the struct here. So we you know, it's the struct becomes like a global object, right? That we can, you know, we can set things. So it's just like when you have a tank, you have a central tank that every other person, you know, taps inside that tank. So that's just what I'm trying to do here. And so you can see that inside our handler as well, we are using still passing in that, because whatever we put here, maybe later we're going to have a setup, right? Our DB setup here. So it becomes available anywhere we have this receiver function, right? Since we have the struct that is being passed. So let's just continue. We have let's check handler. So it's going to take w as a http response writer. Then we have http dot requests. Alright, so I'm just going to do, let's do fmt print hello, I am doing well, right? So we'll come back to this later, but I just want us to set up our server and then, you know, run the application. So what we are going to now do here is to do, so we are going to call it, right, inside here, because this is to say the route, right? So we have the earth route, and then we are passing in the function too, right? So I mean, what's the difference between this and this, right? So this is a constructor. So if you open this, you can see that is a constructor. We have a mux that is taking mux. So this mux is a struct. So if I click here, you can see is a struct that has a handler. This is an interface, right? So don't let me go into the explanation and depth of it, right? So this is, so what we are doing here is to, you know, we are calling the instance of that chi library, right? So but what we are passing here is just, to open this, is an interface, right? So yeah, so that is that. And let me see, in the interface we have use, we have get, exactly. All right, so that is very important. So we have, so you can see that is an interface, right? So we have an interface, then in the interface we have methods, right? So because we want to make a get request, so that's why we are passing in the stuff, right? So that's why you have in the interface, come down here, see we have a get method. So we have how.get, right? How.get. But we also have to define the handler, right? We also have to define the method that will be called when you go to that specific route, right? So that is that. So we have app dot, you can say app dot get handler. So that for that. So we are still going to have several routes that will be defined here, but we'll come back to it later. So this is a basic router that we've set up. So the next thing we want to do is to set up this function, and then we can quickly go to our main. So same thing, app dot application like this. So we have run, so we have mux http dot handler. This also is an interface. Then we return error like this. So what are we going to do? We have this. So I'm going to create a variable. Then, like I said, this is a short way of creating a variable. Then we have so whenever you have this sign, is signifying that what do we call it now? So we have a pointer, right? So a pointer holds the address of a value. You get not the real value, right? The address of a real value. So that's why you're having it here, right? So we have HTTP server, right? So HTTP server is a struct. You can see the server is a struct, right? So the server is what? Is a struct. Alright, so and then inside that struct, then we have different values. Can you see? You have the a other like this, the string, okay, and then you have the handler, right? So we have several stuffs that are there. Alright, so let's just keep going. So we have this, which is going to be, so this is going to be this, okay, so that's going to be the port, right? So you have handler is going to be must like this. Okay, so you can see that I'm passing this must as what? As a parameter inside the method or inside the function. So we have write, timeout going to be time dot seconds. So this is going to be read timeout as well. Everything you're seeing is they are all there. They are all there inside here, right? So the timeouts, you see, write timeout, read timeout should be there as well. Okay, read timeout is there, right? So yeah, that's it. Put a comma. So we have to import time. No. So we have time that is imported, and then so let's print fnt dot print. Just want to make sure that serve has started. Like this. So this is what we have. So fnt is giving us error because we need to import it, right? It's giving us error because we need to import it. So we are going to have error setting up the variable error equals to srv dot listen, right? I'm trying to listen. So here is it, right? So we are setting up our server, right? That's what we are trying to do. Okay, so we know that this is a struct, Okay, so when you create a struct, so structs are blueprints, right? So when you have a struct, which is a blueprint, then you instantiate it, right? Like in object-oriented languages, right? That you create an object, then the objects represent the properties, right? And then you also have like a car. Okay, so for instance, a car has properties like color, various things, right? Properties. And then it has things like action. A car can move, can do stuff, and all of that. So we have properties, we have behaviors. All right, so when you have a struct, like I said, is an object with key value pairs, right? So we need to instance. So it's a blueprint. So the instance is now supplying values. All right, so that is what you have here. That's what I've done here, right? That okay, this is a struct, right? You can see that the struct, the feed had a handler, read timeout, you know, write timeout. I'm now supplying, these are the values I'm supplying to it. I don't know if you get it now. So you have a struct where you define the blueprint, and then you now have to instantiate it. So we call it the instance of that struct, which means you are supplying values. So you have a building, there's an architectural design, and then there's a real building where you now translate it into a real building. And that is what we have done here, right? So now, like I said, when you have a struct, there are methods, right? So the internal library is a very fantastic library, and we are using these are packages for us, like maybe in JavaScript world where you're coming, you have node modules where you can interact with packages, dependencies, right, that you've installed. You know, when you're building a project, there are other things that you need. So the same thing. So we have a lot of things for us that are available for us to use in our project. And for instance, we have the net./htt library. So it's a package that handles communications, and all of that, right? So what I'm just saying is, in setting up our server, we actually need this library, right? And in the library, we have this set up for us, right? So this is struct, right? And the struct has a method. Like I said, the object has a behavior. Like you have an object and has a behavior. So what we have here is you can see that I've defined the variable that holds the values of that struct. And then what we now have here is what the methods that are called on the struct. So if you come to the external library, what do you see? You see that is a method. What does it take? It's taking the server. So you see that it's the same thing. So that means you have a struct, which is an object, then you have behaviors of that object. And that is what we have, right? So I'm calling the method here. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is if error, okay, if not error, okay, is this, we want to check for error, and then http dot error server close case. This is error return. Okay, so why am I having this? Okay, we have to import error. Alright, so this is, we are checking for the error here, right? So, and then you can see that this method we have to return what? What are we returning? We have to return name, right? Like this. Alright, so we are good. So this is for the API, and then so the reason why we're having this line is because we need to install this. Okay, so a way to install this is to do go mod tidy. Okay, so there are two ways. You can do go get the name of the package, or if you have several packages in your project, you can just do go mod tidy. So it's going to find the rest of all the packages that you are using in your project that you have not installed. Alright, so where are we still getting? There's still one red line that we are getting from here. So let's see the option. Okay, so this should be option. Right, so this should be option. Oh, this should be methods. Right, options, inspected headers. Wow. Oh, it's not expected, it should be expose. Expose header. So you see that everything checks well now. So we can now confidently go to the main app now. So what do we need to do in the main app? So I'm going to take this guy off. So everything I've done here, I can actually take everything that I've written here, right, and put it in the main. But everything is just going to look one big gigantic file, right? So it's still the same file, but you can see that it's packaged main. This way it's also packaged main, but in a way of kind of splitting it. So you're going to have db. So let's set up. You're going to have db config. So I said this is a way of declaring your variable like this. Right. So what am I doing here? What I'm doing here is that this particular struct we have here, we've only created an object here. Right. So it's an object. It's like, you know, a blueprint of the object. You are saying, okay, this object should have marks. You should give us their feeds. I say give us this data type. So here is where I'm supplying the real data. So I can as well just copy these three guys. Oh, so let's take these three guys here, bring it here. So what am I going to do is so we are going to supply it. You can see that I created a variable. Of course, you need a when you want to instantiate that struct, you want to supply a real value, then you have to store it in a variable, which I have done. Then the name of the struct, you can see the name of the struct is what? This. Alright, so if you go back to main now and then put, like you can see, it's giving me the struct. So what I'm doing here is to instantiate. So you can see put it 30. Okay, put 30. Then we are going to do, so this is going to be 15 minutes as well. So let's do this. Alright, so we are still having lines missing semicolon. Alright, so that is all. So if you come back to this, you see that, I mean, we've done the, so we've instantiated it here, right? So what we want to do next is to do, so let's set up our main. So you db error, right? So you know one thing about Go is that you can declare two variables together. So we are saying, okay, two variables, instead of doing something like var db, let's say error for instance, or int, right? I say var error, let's say int. So it's just like now saying, you know, db error like this. So we are declaring it on the same line, right? Because that's just what we want to do here. So we are now saying db dot new, right? So I want to believe that we know where this is coming from. So we want to set up the database now. So you see that it's coming from github.com/c. It's giving us the directory, direction to this place. So we are calling this function here. So you can see that the concept of dependency injection is that, we define, our methods here, and then we are now passing the values from the main externally. So we don't do it inside it. And the reason why we are doing that is because, let's say, instead of using SQLite, I decide to use Postgres. I decide to use MySQL. So it becomes easy for me to change because I just change the file and everything still works well. Still works well. So let's go. Nice. Not the essence is just to make sure that everything is not tightly coupled together, right? And it's easy for testing and all of that. So what I'm going to do, so what we have is I'm calling this new, so you can see if you come back to my main, see this is new, takes us to this file. So let's come here. So what I'm going to do is to put this guy. Okay, so you're going to see something. You can see that this guy takes 30 parameters. Can you see? It takes the 30 parameters. So as you can see, it takes 30 parameters. We're going to have db dot max, right? So I'm setting it now. Since this is a variable, right, that holds the value of this, so you are just doing dot. So a way of assessing the value of a variable, that is what we are doing here. So the same thing, dot, right? Because when you have the data in a variable, you can access it. Let's say you have title object. So it's just more like a JavaScript stuff, right? Where you have an object, then you have the value of your object, and then you can access the values, individual values in your object. So that's what I've done here as well. So I have, all right. So there's a mistake here. The idle time. Yeah. All right. So we are good. So we are going to if there is not here like this log.data. So passing the error. So let's bring in the error here like this. So the next thing we want to do is, and then we've opened the database, so we have to close it here. So I'm calling close so that once you might need to call close. It's not might. You call close because the database is opened. We've established a connection to the database, right? And if it's not in use, then it should be closed. Exactly. So that is the essence of the close here that I'm calling. So we're gonna say log.print. We're gonna have something like this. We're gonna have database connection and establish. Alright, so I think that is that for now. We are going to be coming back to this. We're going to have app. Now you can see that I'm instantiating my app now. We did this in the wrong way. Okay, so you can see that I'm instantiating my app now. This should give us, can you see the app config, right? So why do I have this sign in front? It's because what? I'm passing this guy is being passed as a pointer, right? And when we talk about pointer, it doesn't really hold the value, it just holds the memory address. Just hold the memory address. Alright, so that's what it does. So you're going to have config. Don't forget that we have config.db config. Right, so we come back here. So we see that we have the application. So we see that this guy here is here. So if you open here, you can see the guy is here. So in instantiating this, so whatever the value, whatever the variable that has this has to be stored here in the instance of it. Alright, so that's just how it is. Okay, because when I create instance of this, is going to be stored in a variable, which is what dbconfig. So in the instance of it, that's what I've done here now. We are saying config because it's still the name, right? We have what we have is going to be config equals to what? dbconfig. I don't know if you get it now. You have dbconfig, which is this. So that is that for now. So what we want to do now is to do mux, just a variable. We are going to call it app.mux, right? Okay, so we see that app is the instance, right? So since we have instantiated it now, so we can now call the method. You can't call the method when you have not instantiated the variable or the object or the struct. So the object I'm using here is the struct. So we need to instantiate. Instantiate is, it has a value. So you can see from our API here that, you know, these methods are receiver methods, right? That is depending on the what? On the struct. The struct are passed. You can see that the structs are passed as what? As a pointer. So whenever you see a pointer, we have different semantics: reference, values, and pointer. So if it's a value will create a copy of the struct in the method. But once a pointer, you know, helps that, okay, if you need, if this app now, if I have access to this config, I can modify. Those are some of the things that we are going to be seeing shortly. All right, so let's just go. So you can see that's why I have this sign, because it is being passed as a pointer, and then the pointer we just need the memory address. All right, so these are just basic things that I might later just be doing videos later on this concept. So what we want to do is now is we are saying app.mount, right? This is our mux. Then what we're going to do next is if define a variable saying app.run. So where is app.run coming from? So you see that app.run, this is the app.run. Then it's going to take this. This is an interface. Can you see? So this is needed for us to start our development server, right? We need an handler, right, to actually start our development server, like a method now, right? So it's an interface that gives you this serve HTTP, right? So let's come to this part here. All right, so we are going to pass in this mux like this, and then in case there's any error, then we'll handle it like this. fmt dot print previous error connecting. Alright, so final thing we are going to do is log.print app.run. Alright, mux. Alright, so what have I done is a way of, this is just like console.log, saying app.run, right? Same thing here, just put it here. Alright, so let's start. So how do we run our server? So what way we run our server is, so we have ls, so I can seed in, I don't need to seed in it, so we can just go. So I made this mistake when I was working on it. I have go run, right? In the beginning I did go run main.go. It's not going to work. So we're going to do go run, right? So we can't seed in inside this because we want the entire file inside the CMD to run, right? So the mistakes here is that I made was this main, these handlers, this is just one file, but one file that I you know, it's just one file, right? But I decided to just split them. So I need this to run. I need the main is going to run, because you can see the main is going to run. Then it's going to call what? In the running of it's going to call what? The mount, which is inside what? App.go. Then inside the mount, we are going to have what? The handler. It's going to call the handler here. So I need this, everything inside here has to run. And that's why you have to do something like this. ./cmd, like this. Okay, so you are getting one error, or let me see. Getting an error somewhere. Go run/cmd. Okay, so unrecognized error in the token. Wow. Let's look for this error. How do we get this error? Let's check here. Unrecognized this. Unrecognized this. How do we search for this? So there's an error somewhere. So I'm going to fix this error. I'm going to quickly check it out and see where the error is coming from. Okay, so let's come to our, I'm suspecting it's here, but let me take this guy off like this. Okay, yeah, this is not imported. Oh, I thought I did. Okay, so let me comment it out. Unrecognized. Need to look for this error. Unrecognized this. Okay, so let's go over this. Let's trace where this error is. Unrecognized this. Trying to see where this error is coming from. Okay, so let's quickly go over what we have done. This unrecognized this. Okay, you know what? Let's start from here. Unrecognized. Come back to this site. Okay, so I'm going to just okay, let me just comment this guy now for now. Yeah, so having the same error. So let's see. Just trying to know where this error is coming from. Where is this error coming from now? I want us to solve this together and see where this error is coming from. Listen, I must have made the mistake somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to our main. Let's check with our main. We're going to solve this together. We have everything looks fine here. Okay, db.me. Oh, okay. Everything looks good here as well. The new, then this, close, application. I guess it's this. Wow. Maybe. Okay, application mounts logs outputs. That I should have started this development server. This log and this. So let's try again. Okay, so for the last time, let's go to the DB. Wow. Let's get to the DB and see this guy here, the function SQL. Okay, so let's take this line, this line sets, and we have max, this line, and we have this if error db.ping, not error db, create tags, and then we have this guy. Okay. Oh wow, see where the problem is coming from. My goodness. So this should be, the table should not be this. Okay, thank God we're able to find where the problem is coming from. Okay, alright. Okay, so it's okay. This should be here. Okay, so let's do this. Syntax error. Create table if not exists. So we have ID integer auto increment. There's this default created at. Yes, everything is correct. Wow. So this is where I'm calling the method. syntax error. Go, okay, ls. Just going to do go run. Let's do slash cmd. Okay, I'm just going to see. Let's copy this. All right, so go run cmd slash dot go. Let's take this method. So we are going to do is go run, trying to fix the bug, right? cmd slash go. We still have this error. Wow. 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 Okay, so let's do this. Take this. Let's take this guy out. Alright, let's do the same. Log imported but not used. Going to fix the error right on this call. So let's go to have, yeah, so everything is working now, right? So everything is working now. Sorry guys, I had to fix the error, right? So let's do local host etc slash else. Oh, I've disabled. So let's go back to this guy here. Oh. So what else? Alright, so let me do this. Start all over again. Yeah. Okay, so, but yeah, definitely, I'm not supposed to be senior. So you can see that, hello, I'm doing well, right? It shows everything is working perfectly now. So you can see the handler, right? So you can see, hello, I'm working well. Let me stop it. Then our server is working well. Why are we not seeing it? We are not seeing something here because I'm not sending anything yet, right? So there's no response. I'm not sending anything here. And so you can see that our server is started. So once I refresh, you see I am doing well, right? Guys, our application is working well now, right? So what we need to do now is to look at what is wrong here, right? So definitely I'm doing something wrong here, right? So we need to check this out, see what is working here. Something is wrong here, doing something very wrong here. So what I'm going to do is so we have create tags table. So yeah, definitely, so simple. Okay, create table is what I'm calling. Okay, so just going to do this. So what I'm doing is here. Okay, let's cancel and let's start all over again. Okay, the problem has started. So guys, I'm just going to just come here, internal db. Use a lot of time. Just going to copy this of time. Just going to paste it here. So let's see if it works. Right, so definitely there's something I'm doing wrong here. I'm missing something here. I wish I have the time to figure it out. Wow, there's something I'm missing here. Creatable, everything looks so good. Everything is, oh wow, because of a comma. Okay guys, if I take this out now, let's take this guy out. Because of a comma, because of a comma, right? There's a comma. Oh, this does not have a comma. Could it be the reason? Could it be the reason? So, I have a comma here. Everything is working fine now, guys. Can you see? Because I have a comma here. Because of a comma. Right. It's alright. So, our application is working well now. So, what we need to do now? Let's start again. So, let's clear this, and then let's start again. Can you see now? So, come back to this place, health. You can see I am doing well. Right. So, now that our application is working well now, so what we want to do now is to quickly set up our database, and then everything is going to be a bit fast now. So so what we want to do now is basically that we're going to do things like we're going to have the methods that we're going to set up, and then we are going to use interface. So here is the big deal now. So what we want to do now is we are going to have the client, which is going to be our React. Okay, so our React interacting with our server has been done. Right, so we have our server set up already. Okay, so what we need to do now, we have our database already, but also we need methods, right? So we need method to insert, method to update, method to delete, method to get. Okay, so there are 4 methods that we need to do now. We need to work on get, so that means getting data from the database, saving, inserting data to the database. Then what else we need? Deleting from the database, and then update from the database. So that's what we want to do. And then also when we are done, so we are going to create an interface that we can get those methods to our handlers. Yeah, so the handlers is where we make the makes the call, the HTTP request, that handles the HTTP request from the client. Right, so that is what we are going to do right now. So the next few minutes we are going to be working on that. So set up, so for the we are going to set up inside here, we are going to have db repo .go, and then we are going to have another one called repository.go hardware as well. So inside the db repo, we are going to have package repository. Right, so we are going to have package repository, and then so we are going to define a struct. Let's call it tax store struct like this. So we're going to have db sql.db. Alright, so we're going to import. Alright, okay, so we're going to create, so we've done for this is a struct, right? So we're going to create a method to instantiate it. So this method is to instantiate. I'm going to just use t, pass a parameter of SQLDB. Then what are we returning? We are returning a pointer to that struct that we have created, which is going to be return. So I say whenever, since it's a pointer, it has to be in this format. So we're going to have a db, which is this db, right? db equals to t. So that's what we are going to do. So let me put comma, and we don't have same issue, right? So that is that. So what we want to do now is to create method func like this t, which is going to be tag store. These are methods of it's going to take a modal dot tags, right? Then we are going to return error, and then this is what we're going to have. So I'm just going to declare a variable query. So I'm creating create for now. Okay, create task. So let's do. So it's going to be insert. Okay, so I'm going to using RESTful. We're using URL underscore the table, right? Title completed. Title completed. Values. Alright, so this is what we are going to have. SMT error like this. Have t.db. Can you see now? The t.db dot prepare. So someone like, oh, how did you get this prepare? We are calling from what? You can see SQL library. Okay, so what it means is this guy here is here, the struct, we are passing it here. So and then it means that the feed here we have access to, so we are doing t.dp. So you can see this is t. So you are saying t is equal to what? Tag store dot to access the value of this struct, which is db dot prepare. Since this is coming from a library, right? So this guy is a struct and has method. So this prepare is a method of this struct db. You can see here, you can see prepare is taking what? This guy, right? Very interesting library, right? So you can see that the prepare is a method. So it's like you are calling the method of the struct. So you have like a nested struct. So this is a struct. This guy is a struct. So you know the way struct works is you have a struct that is nested. So that means you have access. It's just like you have a brother, right? So you have access to your brother, and then everything your brother holds, you have access to it. Something like that. That's how it works here. So we can take the query like this, and then we can also move forward to say if error is name like this, can return name error, sorry. Then what else? So I'm going to do something very interesting now. Because we're using SQLite, right? This is our SQLite database, right? We can't really store. We come back to our model here. We can't completed here is that handles the toggle, right? So it cannot store boolean. So we use numbers to represent it. So when it's false, it's a 0. When it's true, it's 1. So that's what I want to do here. We are saying completed int. So it's going to be 0. We're saying if tax.completed. Can you see? Bring it out for me. So it's going to be what? Completed int equals to what? 1. right? So we are good. So what we want to do now is to do, don't need the value that will be coming from this. We're going to have s empty s so execute. Can you see? So when you're inserting, this is a method you call. Remember that in the database as here, that is the same thing that we did here, right? We use this to insert the table. Same thing here, right? So we're going to have tags. Don't forget this is we see the tags, right? So we are using a pointer. A pointer modifies the what? The value of the memory address. It's pointing to a memory address. So you can modify dot title. So you have completed as well. This is what we have here. And then if error. So we have to handle error, not me. Then we have to return something like this. Oh, we have to return error. I don't know why I keeps. Then we are returning me. So we are done with insert. Right, so very shortly we are going to test everything out. So the next thing we want to do is to do get func t star tags, then say get. Oh, this should be capital letter. Let's make it capital letter. Get tags, get from task, like this. We're going to have to do. So we are getting all the tags. So we are getting all the tags. It means in a table we have multiple rows. The rows are the horizontal, right? Horizontal. So you want to get all the tags. So we need a slice. There's something we call slice. It's more like an array, right? So a slice. Underneath is actually an array, but array has a fixed length, while slices does not have a fixed length. It's kind of dynamic. So you need that. So we are seeing model.tags, right? So we are returning two things: an array, a slice of all the tags, and then let's come to this. I'm going to take this guy. Right, we're going to do a copy now. So we're going to be select. Okay. We're going to select the ID, the title, completed, created at, updated at, from, tags, lists, like this, right? So we're going to have a rows. It's going to have, we're going to have a rows error variable like this. We're going to have t.b.query. Okay, these are methods from here, right? These are method of the DB. SQLDB has this method. So if you check the library, check here, you can see the method of the DB. So what we are going to have is going to be take a query like this. So we are going to check for error, log me, an error. Okay, since you are returning two values, so you have to do it that way. Then we are going to close before rows dot close like this. And then the next thing is, now we want to get the values. We are pulling out the values. So it's a get request. Means that you are requesting something from the database, right? So from the server, then server get it from the database. Alright, so if we want to get, so we are saying we're going to create a value called var tax. Right, so we're going to, it's going to be, this is a variable, then the data type is what? Is a slice, okay, of tax. We're going to have for rows dots. These are things that you have to do, right? So that we have var loop tax model dot tax. Okay, so this is tax. This is a tax. So we are creating two variables now. So what we have now is error. It's going to be what? Rows dot scan. So that means it's going to pull out those things and then store it there. Here. So we're going to loop throughout the rows and then store it inside. Okay, it's going to loop throughout the row, rows. Sorry, I said row. So we have tax dot id, tax dot title, tax dot completed, tax dot tax dot updated at. Alright, so let's put a comma here. So what are we going to do? Let's undo the error. If error not nil, we have return nil error. So what we are going to have is going to have tax. Okay, so you are seeing this tax, right? Equals to append. So you are appending the tax. Okay, tax equals, so the tax, we are appending the values to this as well. So what are we going to return? So I'll just finish it and then we can now focus on the HTTP. Then we have name. Right, so this gives us this is giving us a slice of all the tax, and then if there's no error, then we get name. So 2 more func, we're gonna have t tax store get single tax. We're gonna have id of int. We have model get tax, and then we're going to have error as well. So we're going to have a query. So we are getting a single tax. So just copy it, put it here. Translating the ID, the title, the completed, the created from this where ID is equals to this. Alright, so var task model. So this is to get a single row now. Right, so we are going to have error. We're getting a single row. T dot db dot query rows. Just a single row. We're going to have the query which we have defined here. Slash slash comma, then scan. So what are we scanning? I'm going to copy this guy. Let's copy this guy. Right. So I'm going to scan this guy. So let's handle the error. So if so I'm going to say if error is new, so it's going to be errors dot is to check for the error. It's going to be SQLite dot error no rows. So return new fmt dot okay tax its id not found. Okay, because we're looking for trying to get a single tag as well as this error. Alright, so return, so it's going to be what? The pointer, so since we are getting this, so that's what we are going to have. Alright, so that is that. We have two more. After that, we move to the FTP for tax. Tax store, we have the toggle tax completion, tax ID int, we have error, so we are going to use query when we query this by query so we are updates. This is going to be updates tax list. Sets completed to not here the value AID is equals to alright, so what we want to do next is res error we have tdb dot esc like this, so we are going to put query good if error, so we're going to copy this error. Let's copy this error. In our case is just right, so followed by rows res dot row affected. This is the error. I have to undo the error. And the same thing if rows equals to 0, we're going to return errors.new which is going to be resource not found, and then we're going to return new. So why are we having rows here like this? Okay, so we have rows, if rows. Oh, alright. So last but not the least is to delete functionality. So these are methods that, you know, for inserting, deleting, updating to the database, right? So that's just what these methods are for. We have query this. In fact, you can define them directly. Delete just to from tax list where id is this. Alright, so we have stm, we have error, and then we have t.dp.prepare, right? And then we have going to have a query there. So post my error here. This should be one error. So we have refer this smt dot close like this. Close the error as well. You have to handle the okay. So I'm just posting error. Yes, like this. SMT. So what is the SMT? So this is the variable dot esc, right? Yeah. So what are we calling? ID, because you just want to delete, right? So sorry guys for being rushing. Rows affected. So let's do rows affected. So we're going to have equals to rest dot rows affected. Right, this is a variable, so it has a method that it returns a method of rows affected. So put the error there as well. You see there are errors. Right, so we're going to be testing this abstractly. If rows affected is equal to 0, in case there are no rows affected, that is just what I'm doing there. Fmt dot. So we're going to have no tax farms. It's ID. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to test the endpoint one after the other, so that make sure that we don't get any error. We're going to have fmt dot print. So we have tax with ID. Deleted successfully. ID. So what are we returning? So this is what we are returning. Yes. So we are done with the methods. So we have a lot of methods, right? So we have a method for that creates right? This is to insert to the database, get all the tags. We have a method that does that. Then we also have what? A method to get the single tags. Then we have a toggle task, okay, to toggle, like to check, all right, and then we have a method to delete. So how am I supposed to do this? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create an interface, right? So someone might just ask, what is an interface? So interface, like, is a type, right, that defines the behaviors that is, that can be implemented by other data types, a common behaviors, right? So you can see that the http.handler is an interface. It has a serve http method. So you can actually implement method of an interface. That is just it. I'm going to cover interface later on the channel. So basic thing is that you are going to have an interface. So interface just, reduce kind of abstraction. Right, so I'm going to have the interface defined here in such that if I decide to use Postgres, right, later, then it does not affect whatever I have inside here. That is just the excess. So that is what we want to do now. So let's go and define some interface. I think when I'm done, we understand better. So you have package repository. So I'm going to do type tags repo structs. We're going to have tags storage interface. So the interface is going to contain all the methods, right? So we come back to this guy here. So the first one is maybe ESA get all the tags, right? So this is just get the method, put it here, right? So come back to oh, sorry, this is how has to be sensitive. Alright, so come back here, create a tags, copy this, bring it here, come back here, get a single tags, come here, put it here, just a single tags, then come here, right, put it here. So right, so what we are now going to be interacting with is going to be the interface. So we are interacting with the interface without necessarily have to worry about the implementation details. Do we get now? So that is just so whatever I have here can be replaced with any other thing. Could be I can decide to change the settings to another database. Right. I've already defined the method. So the methods here are what I'm going to now expose. The methods here inside my interface is here. I'm now going to be exposing to my transport layer. So it's just like I have the projects, into different compartments. So we have the storage layer, then we have the transport layer. We don't have the business layer because we are not really doing any major interaction or none of that. So we have the storage layer, then we have the what. So this is like the storage layer. This is like the transport layer. So that's just the way it is. So the transport layer does not know the implementation details of the storage layer. Do you get? So the means by which the storage layer interacts with the transport layer. So let's say this is a transport layer. I call it transport layer because this is where we're going to be defining our HTTP response writers and then and all of that. All it needs is this guy is just going to give it these bunches of methods, right? So this guy takes all these methods. So these methods are what is going to be exposed inside our handler, and that is all we are going to need. So it's just going to be calling those methods without knowing the implementation details of those methods. So that is the advantages of using interface. It's a very major way of structuring your code in Golang. It's extremely very useful. All right, so that is what we are going to do right now. And then, so you see that, and how do I do that? Okay, how do I do that? Because we are talking about dependency injection, right? So the concept of independent injection, we are passing it from outside. Those things don't know the details of each other, right? They are not tightly coupled together. So you can see that in the beginning, I have an application, right? So it means that, if you come to my main, right, API, we have what? We have an application. Then this application is what? I have a month, right? That is a method. So that means if I define my handlers here, they have access to whatever is here, okay? These guys, they have access to what? Whatever is here. They have access to whatever is inside this object. That's what it means, okay? Whatever is inside that object, they have access to it. So I'm just going to define the interface here. So that's just how to do it. So I'm going to say, so I'm not done. Oh, sorry. We are not done with the interface that we are building here. So let's instantiate the struct. We just created a new a blueprint. We've not installed new storage. New storage is going to take in the DB as well, right? SQL dot DB tax repo. So we're going to have to return tax repo. So we are returning this. We are creating an instance of it. Okay, so don't forget that we have interface there. So we have interface tax. Then going to have tax store. Alright, so each of them, if you come here, they are taking what? They have, what do they have? They are taking this guy. Okay, so we need to pass in this guy. So that's why you see tax store. Then it's going to go TB. And that's all. Okay. So we are good. So we can come here and do store. Go to our API. So we're going to do store. Then we're going to say repository. Repository dot what? Task repo. You can see that this is what we are making reference to. Task repo. Okay, task repo. So if you see this guy now, so this guy now, let me just do something here. So this is what we have. So that means that if I want to get any of the method, all I need to do is app dot store dot maybe get off. We are going to see shortly. It works. Okay, so in fact, that's what we want to do right now. So let's do some image. Let's go to our main so that we finish the settings in our main. So we are going to do something like this. Because we need to call that instance. Don't forget that it has an instance. We need to initialize it, right? So we need to initialize it. And the way we are going to initialize it is, let's come to our main. Let's do store. We're going to do store equals to .new storage. What are we passing? You can see that from here, it's taking a DB. See, this guy takes a DB. So, and we're getting a DB result here. So we're going to pass in our DB. Okay, so then in the instance, because we come here, it has config and store. So we are gonna store. I just call it the same name. Store, and that's all. Okay, so let's still check our development server. Everything still works fine. Right, so if I come back here and call health, I'm doing well. Right, so we can begin to set our handler now. So let's start with our handler now. So we are going to have our handler here. So we are going to have our handler here. So it's going to be h header like this, setting it up better like this. We're going to have our contents type. We're going to have our content type, right? So we're going to have application / JSON like this. Alright, application / JSON. This is going to be writer header, right? So http.status okay. Alright, so I'm going to be returning this. Let's just create a map. So we are going to have a string like this. Let's say status. Let's say okay. Then we have env. So we are just setting the values, right? We are just setting values here. We are saying version. Version is going to be 1.1.0 like this. So if I'm going to be explaining everything, error is this is going to be JSON dot new. So we are going to use encoder. Okay, so new encoder is going to take the response dot encode. What are we encoding? We are encoding this data. Okay, so what we are trying to do is we are trying to send this, right? So there's a series of interaction between the front end and the back end, right? So this is a client. So the client is talking about from your web browser. It could be from your web browser. It could be from your mobile phone. So he makes a request. Let's say he opens and then he wants to, make a request to the backend. So you make a request. So we call it a request. So the response is the result that comes from the server, right? And that's what we are trying to do here. So this is a map. right? We are setting key values, right? So what this guy does is to, we are encoding it, because if you are going to send data over the network, there's what we call JSON, that is JavaScript Object Notation. That is a format that is required for you, that your data needs to be, in order to be able to be sent across the network, right? So the format of communication, right, in between the client and the server, the format has to be in JSON. So what we are doing is, our data here, we are changing it, we are encoding, we want to encode it, right, to be in a JSON format that will be sendable. And once we are able to do this, then we should be able to see the results in our browser very soon. So that is just what this method is. And this is coming from the library, from the, from the Golang library. Very, very nice. So we're going to have, let's have error is going to be when it's not new http dot error is going to have internal server error. So you have http dot status is internal server error. Okay, in case there's an error, this is what you are going to get, and then let's return it. Okay, so if there's an error, to stop, and that is all. I think we are good. Alright, so I'm going to take this guy now. So let's go. Let's stop the development server and let's restart again. So let's go to our server. Can you see what we are getting now? Right, so we are getting the value back. But what we are getting back is what is in JSON format. I don't know if this makes sense, right? So we are getting a value back, but it's in what? JSON format. Alright, so that is that. So let's quickly do for others. So we are going to do for, let's do get app dot application get tax handler. So this is, I'll call this one the transport layer. So we're going to have so we have this. So we're going to have get tax. Alright, so declaring two variables is going to be what? App dot store. Can you see now? App dot store dot, you see, dot tax storage dot get all tax. Can you see the power of interface now? And so you are seeing app dot store dot, so what you are seeing is coming to this guy store, right? You know, we call it app, so it's going to be app dot store dot c, the name here, tax storage dot get all. That is just what you have seen here, right? So in the interface here, right, I'm using methods here. Through interface, I'm using it here, and the method I'm using here, it is not concerned, it does not know the implementation details. So if the implementation details changes, no problem. So that's just, it's like you plug free power, the source of light, electricity. Alright, so I so much love interfaces. Alright, so there. So you can have if error is this. So you can have dot writer head http dot status internal server. Then you have to return. So we have, so I'm going to just lift going to do some lifting. So okay, many of these things we can actually abstract them. Okay, so I'm going to create a struct on top here, API response, so that we have a uniform response struct. So we are going to have status, it's going to be int, it's going to be string. We just want a uniform response, and then data. So it's going to be interface. That means it could be anything. So let's do JSON status. Still remember this JSON message. JSON data. I don't know why this interface is alright, spelling. So I want something uniform. Oh, there's a problem somewhere. Alright. What are we getting? We are getting the tax handler. Tax handler, create handler. Okay. So what are we going to do is to do this one that's encoder this let's encode. Then I'm just going to pass in my interface, my struct, sorry. So the instance of that struct is what we are passing here. Okay, which is going to be http.status okay. So the next one will be message which is going to be tax retrieved successfully. Then we have data, which is going to be get tax, right? The data here that we are getting is what we are calling it, is get tax, and that is all. Encoder. What's the problem with this? Oh, new encoder. Alright, so what do we want to do next is let's toggle tax. Toggle tax completion. toggle task completion, toggle task handler. Okay, right, we are going to have the ID. Okay, because we are going to do it for individuals. We have we're going to do some conversion. Let's see. I'm going to explain this far more better. URL better. As in, when I'm setting the ID like this. So I need to copy these errors so that I don't have to be writing them. I'm writing anywhere. Okay. So if error is not new, we're going to have http error w invalid tax id http status request. Then we should return if there's an error. So we have the ID now. So we are saying error is going to be what app.store. Can you see task storage dot toggle task collector? You can see ID. Can you see now? So it takes ID. Okay. So if error not new, what do you have? Yes. It's going to be a different error. Failed to fetch updated tax. So this is going to be what? Tunnel server error. Alright. So we are almost there. How are we having this? Not available. Yes, I'm not supposed to set available. So let's toggle tax. Toggle tax. It's got an error. It's going to be app.store dot get a single tax. Still same ID. So let's use case if there's an error. Failed to update. Failed to toggle tax. Failed to toggle tax. Failed to update tax. Yes, this is failed to internet server error. So we are returning this. So we need this, guys. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to copy this. I should have even extracted this into a separate what is it called? A separate function. So what I'm doing is set the header to what? This. Okay, then HTTP. Okay. So what else? JSON encoder. So I don't need. I'm going to set this on differently. Oh, wow. Okay, so it's going to encode toggle, right? So this is when I toggle the tags. I want to get the individual tags again, right? The toggle tags. So that's why I'm calling the single tags. We're saying if it's not new, so we're going to have this, of course, fail to encode response. Yeah, so that's that, right? So we have create and get all tags. So we have create so we have get tags, and we have two left, and then we can test and then start looking at the front end. So we have front, let's do some copy now. So this is going to be what? Create assembler. So we are going to have that. So this is going to be the client now sending some data to the database, to the server. So structs. Okay, it's different from just getting data. You know, title. You have title. String. What am I doing? Struct. Yeah, string. Yes. Permit me guys to just do some copy. So this is going to be what? Title completed int. This one completed. Alright, so since the front end has to send it in a JSON format, then we need to change it back to the data. We need to decode it. Hi.body dot decoder. Pass it as what? As a pointer to our T. This is the data structure that I want to decode it to back to. So let's put this L. I have to make sure that we only the L. L, then have invalid requests body. HTTP status var request return. So we have tax dot model dot tax, something like this. We have title is going to be t dot. So we are setting it now, right? It has been decoded. T dot title, right? T dot title. This one is going to be completed. T dot completed equals to. So error is going to be app dot store dot tax, created tax. What are we creating? This tax, right? Okay, so the first thing is create a variable that when you decode it, it's decoded into this struct. Do we get that? So that is that. And then we have a tax, right? That's let's say tax taking our model. Okay, the tax is what we have done the settings of this one, setting it here. And we have here creating tax. With creating tax is going to take what? See what is going to take the model according to this. And that is why we need a data structure like this. Because this guy here, you can see has a pointer. So this guy, you can see memory address. Okay, instance of that is what we are setting here. So what do we need to do? Error. Fail to create tax. Failed to create tax. Failed to create tax. So we have internal server error, and then we return. So what else do we need to do? So I'm just going to copy this guy. There's a mistake here. This is tagging. Probably. If not, this. Oh, I'm saying if. Listen. Okay. If. Thank God for seeing that. Right. So I'm going to just paste this here. Alright, so if this one will go down top tax. So what do I want to do? So create tax is what I'm trying to do. Create tax is this. Fail to create tax. Then you just fail to create tax. Just going to copy this. Let me just copy this guy. So yeah, so you want to send okay, create task, right, and then right header this should be created successfully, status created, right? So this is what we want to do, like this is created, and then we can now do resolve.encoder, then we are going to have a message, so we can make it a map, it's going to be string, let me see, message task created successfully. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to say task created successfully. So last but not the least is the delete. Fork application task http dot response writer http dot request. So we have ID, the same thing that we did when we tried to toggle. So these are things that we can extract inside the function so that we don't have to repeat ourselves. And extract it. This should be so. What we are doing next is to say error equals to dot store dot task delete, then passing the ID. Let's copy this and handle the error. If error is going to be what? Task not found. Status not found. We are going to return, and then we are going to just pass in this string. So what we are saying is status okay, status okay, task deleted successfully. Alright, so we have been able to create the Angular function. Right, so what we now need to do now is let's come to our API here. So we are going to just quickly set it up. So we're going to do, I'm just going to copy this guy, put it here. So I'm going to do v1 slash tax to dot get, right? So this is going to be what do we call it? Get tax. Let's just type get and that's all. The next one is going to be r.posts. App dot create tax handler. Okay, the next one is dot put. So the put is going to take an ID. It's going to be app dot handler r dot delete. It's going to take an ID as well. It's going to what app dot delete handler. So that is really all. That is all. So I think we can, let's test our endpoints and see. Let's start the development server. Yeah, getting error. Okay. Alright, let's begin. Okay. Okay. So yeah, everything works well now. Right, everything is checks well. So I have this library which is called Thunder Client. So you can download it from here. Thunder. I get it already like this. This is Thunder, yes, Thunder Client. So you can search for it. Thunder Client. So you can search for it. Alright, so that is that. So what we are going to do is we're going to create some new tags. Alright, so let me just take this away. We're going to create a new task, and to create a new task, that's v1 slash yes slash tax. Alright, so it's going to be a post request, because if I do get now, let's do a get requests and test how we have. I do a get requests right now. So let's send page not found. Okay, I think we have, oh sorry, it's not correct with what v1 slash is going to be a v1 slash tax. Can you see now? So no, the data is no. Task is retrieved successfully. Status is 200. Right, so if you check what we have here, there's our handler. You can see get. This is what we get. Actually, there's no data. So what we are going to do is, let's create some data. So let's post. So let's come here, this one. So let's say title equals to web development, and then say completed is going to be what? 0. So let's post. You can see task created successfully. Right, so we can see that the task is created successfully. So let's do a mobile development. Let's task is created successfully. So let's do get. So let's get. Let's do get. Can you see now? So we are having a list of tasks. We are having 2 tasks: web development, mobile development. So what I'm going to do is to toggle it. So instead of this one being false, I'm going to make it true. So I'm going to use put. So I'm just going to call the endpoint. Right. So method not allow. Why? Because I didn't specify the ID. Let's see, the ID is 1. Fail to toggle. Why is it failing to toggle? Fail to toggle tags. So let's check. Okay, so let's first of all find the ID. So we have ID of 1. Let's come here and do 1. Put internal server error. We are getting error. Okay, can we try for delete? Let's try and delete 1. So it has been deleted successfully. So we know that our get, come back to get. Okay, we only have 1 tax. Okay, so let's quickly check our toggle. See that something is wrong with it. So let's check the toggle functionality. So yeah, okay, this is the ID to get there, to extract the ID. So the ID, we call it ID here because from here, this is what we call it. We need to extract the ID, and that is what this line of code does, just to extract it out, because it's actually a string, so it has to be converted to an integer. This is an ID, and it's integer that has to go there. As we check here is in integer, you can see it's int. So this is the conversion. Alright, so that is that. So we have id of do. So it's failed to toggle tags. I need to go and check. Okay, so let's go and check this guy. Toggle task completion. So you have to update task list set completed equals to not completed. Where is this? db dot t.db. Oh, can you see? I didn't pass the tax ID here. Tax ID. I didn't pass it here. Okay. So you make mistakes, you correct yourself, and you move. Alright, so it should work well now this time around. So where is our client? This is it. So I'm going to create another task. Let me call it machine learning. So this is going to be a post sent. You can see you get a message called task created successfully. So let's go to our get. How many tasks do we have now? We have 2 tasks. The new one is true. So let's toggle it and make it false. So let's say put, let's say 3. Okay, so what do we see? You can see that it's now false. It was true before, but now it is false. So if I toggle again, it becomes true. So yeah, so that's the end of our backend with Go. And quickly we are going to just work on the front end. So very quickly, let's get started on the front end. So what we are going to do is creating another let's so I'm going to be using Vite. Let's use Vite. Okay. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to use npm let's come to this side for React. I'm not saying it should be me. It should be okay. So this is it. Npm create Vite apply test. So we're going to do npm create Vite apply test. That's what we are going to do. Npm create Vite apply test. So project name should be there. React just JavaScript. So you can see that we have the web already. Then we have to cd. We have to enter into the directory. Change directory to web. You can see that we are already there. And now the npm install the node module. So we are installing the node module now, and it's getting installed now. We're almost there. The node module is installing. So I'm just going to collapse these guys since we are not using them here. So yes, that's fully installed. So we can start our development server. We can do npm run dev. Alright, so this is our React. Okay, so we need to do some cleanup. Quickly do some cleanup. There are things I don't need. I'm just going to come to let's comment that out. Alright, so we have test CSS2. Okay, so we should have this one we have now. So let's take a lot of these guys out. Alright. So we have a clean slate now. Okay, and so hello world, right? So that's very well. That's our React project. So what we want to do is we have 4 endpoints that we want to consume, right? From what we have done so far, we have 4 endpoints: get, post, post, and this is what we are consuming, right? So and what we are going to do is to start working on them. So I'm just going to do. So I'm going to create a div here. So React basically is a JavaScript framework for building user interfaces and then building applications. And the way it works, all I've done is we have the source. So the source is where you have components, right? So where I am is a component. So components are the building blocks of a React project, right? So the way it is on the front end, you build in components, so that makes the component reusable. I mean, that's the concept of reusability of your code. It's just like buckets, blocks, that any other places that you're needing it. It's just like a function that you can call them. So components are actually JavaScript function, but what makes it different, because we are also going to be writing functions, is that the component starts with a capital letter and then it returns JSX. So we can see that we're having like an HTML and CSS stuff. That is a component for you. It's not every time that the component returns JSX, but a lot of times component return JSX, and that is what we have. Alright, so this is a component, and then we are exporting the component. So a component has to be exported for it to be able, for you to be able to use it in other places. For the reusability of the component, you need to export it. So let's just get started with our work. So I'm going to have a class name. Just going to call this one container. So we're going to have container. You have a h3. You have a tags. How? So what do you have next? We're going to have a form, right? We need a form where, you know, our users can actually impute their to-dos. So we have form like this. So, and then we are going to have let me do dots card form. So it's going to be inputs. So we are going to have value. So the way it works in React, we need state. So the state is the component memory on change, right? So it's a component memory that you need in your component to store things. So because as we're working with React, there are going to be a lot of, you're going to, maybe on click of a button can require that the page renders, like the page changes what you are seeing. So let's say on the screen you are seeing blue and you want to change to red, or you have a text that says come and you want to change to go. You need a state to do that. So you need like a small memory that remembers the past and then takes it to the future, and then it can also take you back. So that back and forth is being handled by states, and that is what we are using here. So we have states, we have, so I'm calling it, we have a variable. This is a variable, this is a method. Okay, so the initial state is a variable, right? So the initial state is empty, right? So which is the title. So this is a method that helps you to set a new state. Okay, so it's just like you are moving from one place to another. But in order to move from point A to another point B, we need a means of transportation. So our means of transportation here is this method, right? So, and that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to call an anonymous function here. We can define the function outside, but just for the sake of this, we're going to put it here. So that means whatever we put inside it, whatever we type inside the input, we need a means to be able to extract it. And that's what I'm doing here. So whatever we type is being saved inside the state. That's just exactly what I'm doing here. So the next thing is we need a button. So class name, submit. So that's just it, and I think we are done. So this is what we have. Okay, so you type something in, and then by the time you click submit, then it should be displayed down below. Right, so that is that. So the second state that we are going to have is const tax set tax, which is equals to use state. So it's going to give us empty array. So we are saying that, oh, it's a table. We want to get a list of all our tags because we are going to be creating multiple tags, and we must be able to have all the lists of all the tags, you understand, in our UI. So what that means is that we want to fetch that tags. Okay, so what we are going to do now is to create a function to get the tags. Alright, so we are going to do function. I'm going to use const fetch tags. Is going to be an async function like this. So we are going to do const response equals to await fetch. Okay, so this is a method to fetch tags. So I mean, from the Thunder client, this is what we have to fetch our tags, right? So to fetch our tags, this is what you have. So we're just going to copy this URL. So but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another file. I'm going to call it is. I don't want this place to be dx. So I'm going to do export const this URL. So I'm going to put it here so that if I need to change it, it becomes this URL. So, you know, exporting it here, exported and importing it here rather. Right, so I'm going to have const data equals to await response.json. This is what we're going to have. So if you do console.log, then the data should be in the browser. So we have to call the function, right? So let's call the function right below here, and that's also, if you check what we have here, so what do we see? We can see that we are successfully calling the data now. Can you see it's here already? We're already calling the data now, mobile development and all of that. So how do we now do it to make sure that instead of calling it, we want to display it here? That is what we want to do. So what we are going to do is to set it inside the state, because currently this task is empty, is an empty array. So instead of consoling it there, put it here like this, and then instead of calling it here, so that we just call it once, we use effect. So what is use effect? So the is to manage side effects, right? So each time the page renders, whatever functions you are calling keeps calling repeatedly. So in order to stop that behavior, I need to put it in a use effect, right? So what we want to do now is to just display what we have, right? So that's what we want to do next. So in order to do that, we are going to come down here, so it's JavaScript. So this environment we have, this returning environment we have, we call it JSX. So what JSX helps us to achieve is that we're able to write JavaScript inside HTML. That's just way. We are writing JavaScript inside HTML. Okay, so what it means is, in order to do that, all I need to do is to open a parenthesis like this. So if I do 3 plus 3, what do you see? You're going to see 6. you can see 6. So that's just JavaScript for you. Alright, so this is a variable tax. So I'm just going to now map over it using a JavaScript method. So you see tax.map like this. So I'm going to take simple tax. Then, okay, so map is a method. I've said the difference between a method and a function is a method is specific to a data type. Okay, so we have methods that are specific to data types. So in JavaScript we have methods. We have array methods like map, filter, reduce, and all of that for each. So what we are going to do here is this. So we're going to have to do. So we're going to return. So in returning, let's have a class. I'm going to be writing the CSS shortly. Catch. And then we are going to have a key for each of the words of the tags. There has to be a key. So what we are going to have is we are going to have an input as well. This is going to be checkbox. So check task that's completed. And change. I'm just going to do everything, and so once I'm done, you can test everything. Toggle. So this is the method I'm going to be calling completion. So we're going to be tags. So these are just methods I'll be calling later. I'm going to have a span, class name. So this is going to be the card, the title, so that's completed. So we're going to have tags, title. So it's just a ternary. Okay, so if it's true, then it's going to show this class. If it's not, then this is going to give us title dot title. We are mapping. That's what we are doing. We are mapping task.title. Then we are going to have a button. So the button is we are going to have an image inside that button. So for the image, if I have an image on my delete icon. Alright, so let's import delete from SVG. Alright, so I know why it's not showing. Let's just get this done. I'll click. It's going to, so we have an on-click function. Like you want a function that will be invoked. When we click, you want an action That is just the essence of your code. Tax.id. Okay, so that's for delete. So yeah, it has to take the ID. Now on the back end, we actually have to pass in the ID too. That's ID. So this is it, and so if it's empty, then okay. So we have this. So I'm just going to cut this because if there's no tax, I want it to show. So we're going to do something like this. Going to do tax. Okay. If nothing, then it should still show. I don't put that question tag to give error. Okay. The CSS is very straightforward. No tax added yet. So this is text that will show. You can see no tax added yet. So we are done. So what we need to do now is let's work on the functionality of the application. So let's work on the functionality of the application. We are going to do the form submission. Where are you? Submit. It's going to be undo submit. Okay, so const undo submit. Async like this. Take E to prevent default submission. E dot prevent default. If so, in case you are trying to submit something and you don't have anything there, I don't want it to be submitted. Okay, dot trim. I'm going to show that. Sure. So this is it. Okay. Okay, let me finish this. Just going to alert. Title cannot be empty. So return. So the next thing is const new tax. So we are going to call the endpoint. So the new tax is going to be title, which is what title dot trim, and then completed, which is what 0. Okay, default. So what we are going to now do is we are going to create tax. Okay, so let's create an endpoint to fetch that. Let's go to tools. We are going to do const export costs create tax because is sync. You're going to have to create tax, then we are taking in an argument because we are creating tax on the front end now, sending to the back end to save for us. It's like when you take money to be deposited in the bank, you're going to have await. Since I'm async, await fetch. Now the base URL. Then we have going to have this. We have methods. Specify the method to post. Alias is going to be content type application JSON body JSON dot stringify, which is what no tax, and that's all. So this is what we are going to call. So if I come here, I just come to app. So this is what we are going to since this is an async, so we are going to await it. Await this. Call it like this. Then we are passing the no tax. Put the no tax here, and that's all. So then when you pass the no tax, I also want it to update it. Okay, so that if a tax has been deleted, then it has to make another get request to get the data for me. Because I mean, if I have like 10 data that have been displayed and I've deleted 1 or 2, then I'm not supposed to be seeing 10. I'm supposed to see the updated data. So that is why I'm calling this fetch data again for me here. And then what does we need to do? Then set title to what empty string, so that whatever you type here should not be here anymore. Alright. So are we supposed to be having empty data? Something is wrong. No, you have 2 data, so why is it not displaying? I think we are missing something. Set tax. Okay, so let's do console.log. Where is the tax? So there's a problem. There's a problem that's okay. Okay. Yes. So we have data.data. Exactly. So I was like, okay, should be data.data. Alright, so because I expect that this guy should be showing up. You can see this is true. Okay, so it's not working yet. So let's do going to the market. If I submit, can you see everything works perfect now? It's working. So our get is working. So what we need to do now is We have two main methods. Let's go to our utils. So let's update. So we are going to update the tags. And to do that, we have this URL slash this tags.id. This is going to be put, and then this is going to be what? It's going to be tags. It's going to be what? Task. Alright, so update tags, then so to delete tags as well. Delete tags. So delete tags is taking ID. So yeah, we are done with this. So we need to use now to call it. We'll be calling those guys. Yeah. So update tags is going to be const toggle tags completion equals to async task like this. We have const updated tags is going to be this. So we are going to spread it because in React we don't mutate the data, and we have completed data. We have the tags that's completed, then if it's true, binary, or it's not. So then we can now await it. So we have updated tags. So this is method that is coming from, let's import it. It's coming from here. Updated. It's coming from here. It is. So we are going to pass in this guy here. And then once we do that, we're now going to fetch task as well. So task completion should be what we are passing inside this checkbox on change when we click. So we are taking the task, okay, the task, the map, and passing it here. Alright, so let's do the delete. Const and delete. It's going to be task ID equals to So when we want to delete, we want a confirmation. So like a window pop-up dot confirm. In fact, one of the things I said, if you try to submit, can you see? Tag cannot be empty. So you can't, it is not going to submit it back because this is what is responsible for that. So dot confirm. Are you sure if you want to delete this task? So that's the question, and then if you're sure, so confirm. Okay, so that's the message that comes. So delete task. So it's going to be what? Tax ID, and then fetch. Right. So I guess let's see shopping. So I can toggle. Toggle is not working. It's not working properly. Okay, so there's a problem. So what we need to do now is let's check the toggle. Okay. Toggle. Okay. Why is it not working? Toggle tag. Task completion. Sync task. Updated task. Task. So let's go to this. Updated task. No. It's going to be task. Task.id. So it should work now. So let's see. Still not working. So let's check why it's not working. Update task. Async task. Cause rest. Await. Fetch. Page URL slash task.id. Then put here task. Alright, so let's go to this side. App.task. What do we have here? It's going to be task on change. Task completed. Tax ID checkbox. Okay. So let's restart our this and Okay, let me check my yes, I'm getting course error. Has been blocked. Yes, unable to access it. So let's go and check why are we having that course error. I'm not supposed to be having course error. Alright, so I'm going to implement for delete. So let's see the delete. Alright. Okay. I done for delete. Yes. So let's check what is happening. Tax ID. Tax delete. Alright. Undo delete. Okay. Then first and foremost, so let's get, look at what I wrote here. How will it work? This should be ID now. This is supposed to be ID. So, yes, delete is working now. So all we have now is this guy. Just giving me course error. Alright, so why are you giving me course error? Export cost update. Async task. This put content task. Oh my goodness. There's a problem. So Okay, let's go to the API. So let's get to the API and see. So we have allow origins. Okay. Oh, there's no put here. This life. So everything is working now. So because of the time, okay, let me quickly do the CSS. I'm just going to write it very fast. CSS. So we have the container to be, the container is max width, it's going to be 700 pixel. Margin is going to be auto. Let's forget about font family. Okay. Dot form. The margin bottom should be 20 pixel. Alright. Dot card form should give us display of flex. Gap of 10 pixel. Dot settings to give us border none. Padding should be 10 pixel, 20 pixel. Cursor should be pointer. Border radius should be. Alright. Okay. Inputs. Should be text. Width. Width should be 90. Outline should be none. Okay, so it's taking shape. Border should be 1 pixel solid black. Padding left. I'll make it simple, 10 pixel. Border radius 4 pixel. Alright, so this is taking shape now. So we have that card span is going to be margin left 5%. Margin for the card is going to be 5 pixel. I've declared this when I was working on it. So the classes is already on flex, align items. It's going to be center, and then cap. It's going to be 4 pixel. Easy dots. Dot card. P. Adding the 7 step. Okay, alright, so this needs to come to this side. So we have the delete, we have margin, inline, starts. It's going to be auto. We have border, none, enter, border, where even need all this? Okay, this is not working. Dot task dash test line. Alright, so it's just this that we have left. Font size 12 pixel transparent. So definitely missing out something. Okay, let's come here and do button. Oh, it's not there, it should be there. Alright, so that's it. We can delete, then we can add, okay, and then we can just do whatever you want to do. Machine menu course study info caption. This is it. You can toggle, you can untoggle, right? You can toggle this, you can delete it. So thank you guys for staying through, and you're able to stay through means you are determined. So you've been able to look at building this application using from Golang for Go on the back end, and then all the way to using React on the front end. I want to believe that you've learned a lot, and then don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe for notifications for more videos. There will be more videos that will be coming on many of the things I've used on structs, interfaces, database, and all of that. So more projects will be coming. So like and subscribe and share. Thank you guys again. So don't forget, the project is here on GitHub. You want to take a look at it, clone it, and go through it, and then run it. And if there's any problem, any challenge, you can drop it in the chat section for me. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.